In horror movies, it very much seems that your friends are either going to be there with you till the moment you die, or they're going to be the ones leaving you there for dead. Often seeing how things play out, it brings to the mind the phrase, "Who needs enemies when you've got friends like this?" Unfortunately, in most horror movies, you've got both. So I'm Amy from What Culture, and here are the 10 worst friends in horror movies. 10. Dalton just can't stop peeling Wade's face. House of Wax, 2005. 2005's maligned slasher remake, House of Wax, charts the exploits of a group of college buds as they attempt to go camping and have a big old sexy party with their girlfriends. But one thing leads to another and the gang end up in a ghost town, and they're soon fighting for their lives around the local wax museum, which is run by a pair of creepy twin brothers. The waxworks are not what they seem, or perhaps too much of what they seem, that being people. Yep, the dummies are all real people who've been brutalized and encased in wax. Wade is the first of the gang to be immortalized in wax and placed as an exhibit in the museum. Unfortunately for him, he's found by Dalton, who, upon discovering his body, begins to peel the wax off, taking Wade's face with it. Now, most of us would use this moment to pause and take stock of the situation, perhaps wait for a trained medical professional to intervene. But no, top guy that Dalton is, he just keeps on peeling until Wade has no flesh from his temple to his chin. Hey, that's what friends are for, right? 9. Jessica's idiocy kills Megan. Sorority Row, 2009. In the days before YouTube's prank culture, if you wanted to get one over on your boyfriend for all your friends to see, you had to go to some serious extremes. You know, like faking your own death during sex kind of extremes. At least that's what Megan and her sorority sisters decide to do in 2009's Sorority Row, to get one over on her cheating boyfriend Garrett. Letting it go on far beyond the point of funny, the sorority sisters have Garrett drive them out to the lake with Megan's body under the pretense of disposing of the evidence. But there's always one that has to take things a bit too far, isn't there? And in this case, it's Jessica. She convinces Garrett that the air needs to be let out of Megan's lungs if she's going to sink to the bottom of the lake. Thus, while the sisters' backs are turned, discussing just how long to let the already stale prank go on for, Garrett plunges a forearm wrench into Megan's chest, killing her for real. If only Jessica could have kept her trap shut, maybe the rest of the sisters wouldn't have been stalked and murdered by a vengeful killer. But then, you know, where's the film in that? 8. Charlie unfriends Ed for telling the truth. Fright Night, 2011. Nobody paid much attention to 2011's Fright Night remake upon release, but it has stood the test of time as a solid piece of genre filmmaking that doesn't take itself too seriously. The story goes that vampires have moved into Vegas, and the only forces that stand in their way are gothic magician and supposed vampire expert Peter Vincent, and McLovin himself, the nebulous Ed. Now, when you're up against the undead, living dead, or not quite dead, you want all hands on stakes. But as is so often the way in horror films, you'll need to convert some skeptics first. Unfortunately for Ed, the only person who'll listen to him is his friend Charlie. But Charlie is in with the cool crowd now and won't believe a word of it. In fact, Charlie's so done with Ed's supernatural nonsense that he officially renounces their already unstable and distant friendship. Beset by rejection from his only chum, Ed goes willingly into the cold embrace of the vampires and becomes a creature of the night himself. The newly minted evil Ed may have a short reign thereafter, but at least he and his old pal are on good terms. Having been staked through the heart, Ed tells him, "It's okay, Charlie. It's okay." 7. David works his dark mojo on Michael. The Lost Boys, 1987. Another vampire cult classic with the worst friends in the business, The Lost Boys is about the journey of Michael into the inner circle of a group of Cali Coast bohemian biker vamps. Because where else does the young, hip, self-assured creature of the night go to but sunny California? Falling head over heels for Star, a local girl absolutely in love with David, the group's assumed biter-in-chief, Michael entangles himself in their nighttime games, no matter how often he's warned away. And why not, you know? David seems like a great guy, at least to begin with. Ushering him into their ranks, David guides Michael through various initiations, including drinking a bottle of blood without letting him know that by the end of it, he'll be dead. Luckily for Michael, his younger brother Sam is a better bud, who happens to befriend the vampire-hunting Frog Brothers. The trio bring Michael back from the brink and put an end to David for good, impaling him on a handy set of antlers. 6. Juno is just the all-round worst. The Descent, 2005. Thrill-seeking Sarah has a rough ride in 2005's Brit horror The Descent. Her family are killed in a car crash, she loses touch with her friends, and then she gets trapped in an uncharted underground cave system with a race of savage, cave-dwelling creatures whilst spelunking. And who does she have to thank for it but her dear old pal Juno? As the film progresses, the group get more and more lost in a labyrinth of caverns. But it's not until they begin to get picked off one by the creepy white humanoid monsters, lovingly known as crawlers, that the truth comes out. Not only was Juno having an affair with Sarah's husband before his death, casting doubt over the lost love that Sarah has been grieving for all year, but Juno also led them into these caverns knowing full well that the system was unknown and potentially unstable. And this means that their rescue is impossible because no one knows where they are. I mean, sure, how could Juno have known that the shadows would be full of orc-looking nightmare fuel who'd eventually slaughter all but the final girl? But I'm just saying she probably should have known better in the first place. 5. Laurie gets murdery out of jealousy. Happy Death Day 2017. 2017's Happy Death Day rejuvenated the slasher formula for Gen Z, but instead of Ghostface, we have Babyface. The story follows Tree Gelbman, a self-centered university student who wakes up hungover on her birthday, has one hell of a day, and is murdered by a doll-faced killer before waking up again on her birthday. Trapped in a time loop and getting weaker with every kill, Tree has to uncover the secret of her murderer before she can escape or face biting the dust for good. But she's not alone. Along for the ride, she has her one-night stand, his best mate, the married professor she's having an affair with, and her friend, roommate, and student nurse, Laurie. Laurie remembers Tree's birthday, bakes her cupcakes, and, tries to kill her in a psychopathic rage. Yes, Laurie is Tree's mystery murderess, hunting her down and hacking her up in 100 terrible ways. And her motive? Tree's been sleeping with the teacher that Laurie has a crush on. 4. Ed is literally a zombie. Shaun of the Dead 2004. It's a simple plan. Take the car, go to Mum's, kill Phil, grab Liz, go to the Winchester, have a nice cold pint and wait for all of this to blow over. But that's easier said than done with friends like these. Shaun of the Dead's titular hero, played by Simon Pegg, has a few people in his life that perhaps don't have his best interests at heart, and his best friend and perpetual slacker Ed is the worst of all. Granted, Shaun has his shortcomings. He's a bit of a loser, working a dead-end job and not treating his girlfriend with nearly as much reverence as she deserves. But it's Ed who perpetually drags him down to his level, making sure that Shaun's ambition begins and ends with a night at the local boozer. Ed redeems himself in the end in an act of self-sacrifice that allows Shaun and his newly rekindled love Liz to make their escape. And for his troubles, Ed ends up a zombie, chained to Shaun's shed where the pair spend their time together going brain dead in front of video games. I mean, the fact that Ed is actually a better friend once he's undead kind of says it all. 3. Jess kills all her friends and herself many times. Triangle 2009. Jess has it all. A home, a loving son, and plenty of healthy, well-rounded friends. That is, until a fateful boat ride where her and her pals lose control of their dinghy and are swept into a storm. They board a mysterious, deserted ocean liner in search of safety, and Jess's friends are picked off one by a killer in a Hessian hood. While her chums are being butchered on deck in a pretty grisly fashion, Jess is plagued by a sense of déjà vu. And stranger things begin to happen. Messages written in blood appear and disappear, the fresh food in the dining room rots in a matter of minutes, and her friends turn nasty, attempting to murder her in a bloody rage. But what could have driven them to such madness? As it turns out, this is not the first time these friends have boarded the boat, and their masked killer is none other than Jess herself. Caught in a time loop, Jess takes on the mantle of the masked killer, completing the course of the events as she's seen them, in the belief that the only way to save herself and escape the day is to kill all of her friends. Because if in doubt, murder your mates, right? 2. Billy is not the boy next door. Scream 1996. Scream slashed through our screens in 1996, providing parents with an easy last-minute Halloween costume for decades to come, and creating one of the last true slasher icons, Ghostface. The original bad boys of the Scream series, Billy and Stu, have their work cut out for them when they go after Sidney Prescott. Not one to fall prey to a couple of Judases, Sidney is still alive and slaying in the upcoming and trendily unnumbered Scream 5. Brackets on the 5, 25 years after the boys were put into the ground. But one of these boys is not like the other. Billy is a true psychopath, and psychopaths do not make good friends. Not only does he secretly enact a plot of bloody revenge and carnage against Sydney and all their school friends, but he even turns on his co-conspirator and bestie Stu in the end. Plunging his knife a little too deep into his gut, Billy mercilessly leaves Stu bleeding out. We suspect that even if Sydney hadn't dropped a television on his head, Stu would have been a goner anyway. 1. Pelle takes the gang to the site of their murder. MIDSOMMAR 2019. Folk horror MIDSOMMAR shook up screens and the broader genre in a way we never saw coming, and that was even after director Ari Aster's uniquely disturbing Hereditary. In the film, Pelle takes his university anthropology pals back from the USA to his old stomping ground in Sweden, to enjoy a summer of academic exploration, psychedelic drugs and human sacrifice. Things are strange from the off, but the gang decide to take it in their stride, and blend in as best they can. And this isn't easy, as early on in the proceedings, they're made to witness the suicide of 2 of the commune's elders. Playing ignorant at first, we discover that Pelle knows exactly what he's put his friends in for, and has intentionally led them to the commune in order for them to become ritual sacrifices. His efforts ensure the group are, amongst other things, gutted and stuffed with hay, sewn into bearskin and burned alive. It's definitely fair to say that friends like these don't come along often. And on that note, we've reached the end of this list of 10 worst friends in horror movies. If you can think of any more you would have included on this list, then let us know in the comments down below, and remember to check out whatculture.com for more lists and articles like this every single day. As always, I've been Amy from What Culture, and I'll catch you next time.